featuring Uganda.
A very warm welcome this evening to this edition of Behind the Headlines, this Wednesday, the 2nd of November, 2022. My name is Charles Odongtho, your moderator, and as always, we have a topic of the week, a topic that is trending, a subject that is on the lips of many people, young and old especially, and this particular one this week, we're going to be looking at the area of ICT. We are going to be looking at the much talked about Computer Misuse Act that was passed recently by Parliament, already assented to. We will be looking at areas of ICT development, business process outsourcing, areas of innovation, areas of startups, if you like. We will be looking at all those perspectives. We are going to have this discussion. Let me start with, from the extreme left, we have Presidential Advisor on ICT, Mr. Byaruhanga Joel Mark. He is with us here. Mark, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles Odongtho.
Good to have you. Viewers. Good to have you today on this maiden appearance that you're making here. It's a pleasure to have you. And we have our panelists. Our panelists are back right here, and both of them. Honorable Ojara Martin Mapenduzi last week was away on official parliamentary duty. Honorable, you're most welcome back.
I didn't know Dr. Sarah had also disappeared. So looks like we are all coming back today. Good evening, viewers, and thank you, Lady Charles.
Thank you. And Council Sarah Birete, and who was also away on official duty, and she's also back with us in the studio. Sarah, you're most welcome back.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are expecting the Minister in charge of ICT himself, the Honorable Dr. Chris Baromusi. He should be joining us shortly. I am made to know he had a long day, you know, with the raft of meetings here and there, but he confirmed this evening that he will be with us in the studio right here. We are still expecting him. So, Honorable Minister, if you are hearing us from wherever, kindly make your way to the studio here. But we have to start. Let me start with Sarah. I don't know which topic. Probably we should start with, maybe we should start, the topic, our specific topic is a question. Is the Computer Misuse Act a drawback in ICT development? And it's just not going to be limited to the Computer Misuse Act. We are going to be discussing a lot of the other parameters in ICT, like I already said. But let's start from that. Sarah, you are in the civil society space, and several of the civil society actors have already decided, made up their mind, that they're going to court, a number of them to challenge you know, provisions of this act that has been assented to by the president. What do you make of it in light of the topic that we are handling today?
Just as way of background, you know, technology is an enabler for development.
Yeah.
Socio-economic, as well as facilitating the enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms for everyone. Recently, the UN declared access to internet a human right, and the declaration was twofold. One is the facilitation of a right to opinion and expression for the citizens, global citizens, but also the need for governments to put in the necessary infrastructure, ICT infrastructure for development. So when it comes to the contribution to development, ICT facilitates important areas like ease of communication, cutting costs for communication, access to important health and education information, and we saw how during COVID, people were able to continue learning online, but it is also a big platform for innovation, and we are in a digital era. The globe has gone digital, and the e-economy is now one of the leading economies in the world. So given the advantages offered by ICT development, it is very unfortunate to see that when it comes to enabling citizens to access internet, enjoy fundamental rights and freedoms, including expression of opinion, which facilitates socio-economic growth, we only look at ICT in terms of citizens' journalism and curtailing space for citizens' participation in governance. During the time Honorable Nsereko was introducing the bill, the argument among his request for the motion, the leave to introduce the bill, was that people are attacking MPs on social media. It would be bad for people to negatively abuse each other, and I know that there are these few extremes on social media. But given the larger advantages, then the question to our leaders should have been, where do we have leverage as a country? Do we need to curtail dissent? Do we need to curtail criticism? Do we need to close citizens' journalism because of a few elements that the existing laws could deal with? Or do we need to enable citizens to enjoy and access ICT in order to be part of the global citizen that has gone digital? So when you look at clauses like Section 2, Section 12, and 22, among others, in the Computer Misuse Amendment Act, they automatically contravene Article 29 of the Constitution. And we have had decisions in this regard. When you refer to the Andrew Mwenda Nyangobo versus Attorney General case, the Supreme Court is on record to have ruled that you cannot curtail publication and sharing of information on the basis that it is false. The Court of Appeal, in the lead judgment by the late Justice Byamujisha, did underscore the fact that to put limitations on the enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms, such limitations must be what is acceptable, justifiable in a free democratic society. So when you weigh what Parliament has offered to Ugandans in a form of a draconian law vis-a-vis the Constitution, and these decisions taken by both the Constitutional Court and Supreme Court, it can't pass the test. It simply cannot pass the test. And citizens out there keep wondering as to whether the lawmakers understand their function in terms of making laws that should conform to the Constitution as well as precedents by superior courts in this country, and whether they think there is superior authority to the constitution and courts in this country. And I know that citizens have gone to court. Many other people are preparing to go to court. And I'm sure courts cannot contradict their own precedents as far as this law is concerned. To conclude, Charles, it's important to note that in Uganda, the obstacles to enjoyment of internet rights or access to internet is not just the Computer Misuse Act. We have had incidences where government closes social media, especially during elections, and courts have ruled that it is illegal and unconstitutional. And for 2 years now, Facebook is closed in Uganda. Yet we have young people that do business on social media as a source of income, but also as a platform for innovation. And these people are unjustifiably disadvantaged by the actions of the government.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me now take the pleasure to introduce and welcome our minister, and he is here on a most relevant topic, ICT, and so it is the best topic that the Honorable should actually be discussing. Honorable Dr. Chris Badomunsi, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. As a Minister for Information, I'm relevant to any topic. But thank you very much, Charles.
And especially when you add national guidance.
National guidance.
It makes it even more juicier.
And I'm happy to be here back.
Thank you very much. Yes. You're welcome. We expected you to start with us, but you just walked in as Sarah was beginning, which is a good thing. Honorable Minister, you have just entered when Dr. Sarah was referring to, she has called it a draconian law. I will not call it anything because I'm a moderator. So I will just throw it at you. And this was a private member's motion moved by the Honorable Sereko. But let me also tell the viewer that we actually invited the Honorable Sereko, but one of my colleagues said he feared. He cowed away from the discussion because we tried to get him the whole of Monday and yesterday. Eventually he came through and said that he didn't want to come to the show for this discussion. Because he wanted not to be interrupted. That's what he said. But we thought that it would have been better for him to face the public head-on and discuss ICT in its entirety and give his views on why, or to use the more direct, term to defend the law that he has made as a legislator. He has feared that, and so we will discuss minus him because the country is bigger than him as just a mover of this law. So, Honorable Minister, the President has already assented to the law, and an assent means that he agrees with everything, with the law in its entirety. And so government thereby owning it. Did you not, or did your lawyers not take into consideration some of the critical references that Sarah is making, one of them being that there were, judicial processes that referred to issues to do with false information, and that the law, the judges made their views on it through judgments, and that this act now, it is now an act, goes right against some of these judicial decisions. Did government not think about that?
Well, thank you very much, Charles. Of course, what Sarah is expressing her personal opinion is she's not court, so she can't declare the law unconstitutional because she's not a constitutional court. And if people are going to court, it's their right. We shall wait for the interpretation. But back to the law. First of all, the Computer Misuse Act has been there since 2011. It has been in the press, and what the Honorable Sereko did was to bring an amendment bill. So he was amending an existing law. So it should not be discussed as if it's a new law altogether. And any Ugandan, leave alone a member of parliament, is free to propose a new law or to propose an amendment to any law. So I want to hold in contempt all those who are criticizing the Honorable Sereko. As a member of parliament, he is entitled to his views, and he brought his views as a private member and brought his proposed amendments. And when you bring that private member's bill, then Parliament processes it. If Parliament agrees with you, it passes it and then sends the President. If Parliament disagrees with you, it can stop the law. Parliament may consider the proposals and also amend them like we did in Parliament. So I have seen a section of Ugandans castigating the Honorable Sereko. He should not. It is okay to have a contrary view, but it is wrong to criticize the member of parliament simply because he has brought his views and put them down and presented them to parliament for consideration. And the Honorable Sarah was saying, I don't know whether the MPs know that the courts, of course we know, we have all gone to school as members of parliament because we have a minimum qualification of senior 6. And when a bill is brought to parliament, it is sent to a committee, the relevant committee. The relevant committee, in this case, I think it was the ICT and National Guidance Committee. It carries out consultations. People with the opposing views or supporting views, they are all invited to come to the committee and express their opinions, and then the committee writes a report which is brought to Parliament. And then all of us members of Parliament are given an opportunity to debate this report and to consider clause by clause, and then we pass what we believe is a very good law. And of course, even in the Parliament, we have a legal and legislative department with expert lawyers who guide members of Parliament and the Parliament as an institution. So, this computer misuse law has been there. The Honorable Sereko made proposals to amend sections of this law, which we considered, and the President has assented to the law. The gist of the amendments proposed by the Honorable Sereko, yes, technology has come. We can communicate using technology, but we should communicate responsibly. Basically, it is imparting that onus of responsibility on those using technology to communicate. Because communication as a function is regulated. Whether you communicate through electronic media like television here, because we have rights. I can't say now I start abusing Ugandans and say anything because I have rights. That's why you are here as a moderator to say, no, we have this talk show, but the parameters to guide you are A, B, C, D. If it is the print media, for instance, the newspapers, they have editors, they have editorial committees, and so forth. Before you publish stories, they go through a process. So there is that regulation. Whether it is radio, the same. Now the challenge with the digital communication, like Dr. Sarah said, we have this citizen journalism, where anybody, whether you started journalism or not, you can just get to your phone and write what you want. You can get to your computer and write what you want. So the law is not gagging Ugandans from communicating, but is simply saying, when you communicate, do so responsibly. For instance, you have had situations where people write, President Yoweri Museveni is dead. So would you say, and yet the other day they announced he's dead and he was in Bombo commissioning a factory. I was forced to go in the media center and say the president is alive. So are we saying that these rights include declaring me dead when I am here in the studio? So really the gist of the law, even when it was introduced first in 2011, was that yes, we communicate with these technologies which are coming, which are useful, but let us exercise some sense of responsibility. For instance, one of the areas the Honorable Sereko was proposing or proposed is about hate speech. He says a person shall not write, send, or share any information through a computer which is likely to ridicule, degrade, or demean another person, group of persons, a tribe, an ethnicity, a religion, or gender. I want the viewers to reflect on this. So are you saying this is wrong? To say when you communicate, do not cause division among the people along religion, gender, or tribe, and so forth. They're saying somebody will not communicate, and the communication should not create divisions among persons according to tribes, ethnicity, religion, or gender. The communication should not promote hostility against a person, group of persons, a tribe, an ethnicity, a religion, or gender. So are we saying this kind of proposal is wrong? That if I get to my phone, I communicate. My communication should be responsible enough not to cause a particular tribe to start fighting, or to ridicule a particular faith or religion. I see this kind of proposals very innocent, and I think very positive.
Okay.
So, and for us as a Ministry for ICT and National Guidance, we did support the proposal by the Honorable Sereko, and we spoke on the floor of Parliament that we have no fundamental problem with the proposals being made. We are not gagging anybody. Nobody is being stopped from communicating. But let's communicate with decency. Let's communicate with responsibility. People need to look at what is happening on social media. People post all sorts of things, abuses, insults. Uganda is supposed to be a decent society. So basically we're saying we communicate, but let's do it decently. I think the positive thing with the other forms of media platforms is that there is regulation. You cannot just write anything in a newspaper. The editors, the people who manage the paper, will filter out what shouldn't come out to the public. On radio, on TV, I cannot come here and start abusing my colleagues here. You will stop me. But the challenge with the technology is that when I get to WhatsApp or Facebook, nobody is censoring what I'm writing. You remember during the COVID, we got now, you know, COVID was a pandemic, but we also got an infodemic, where people would post all sorts of wrong scientific information on a computer. And then you, who is not a doctor, you get confused. People were saying, this vaccine of COVID, if you are given the vaccine in 2 years, you will die. And somebody signs off as a doctor. Now you, who is not a doctor. So this communication has to be regulated. I really wonder people who say that this kind of regulation is not necessary.
Okay.
So I want to disabuse the thinking that this law is meant to gag Ugandans. No, it is not meant to gag anybody. It is meant to say, you can communicate, use your computer, use your phone, but please, as you send this message, as you forward this message, maintain decency, maintain responsibility. Just that.
Okay. Honorable Mapenduzi, you are a member of Parliament, and this law passed through your hands, just like the hands of the Honorable Dr. Baryomunsi. Dr. Baryomunsi talks about a number of fundamental things and issues of decency, issues of responsibility, no gagging, and responsible communication. Now, that's either here, I mean, neither here nor there, because of the
sure.
The period we are into, because I also get angry with some of the communication. That's what I want to say. But I say, what can I do? What do I have to do? I have to put on a thick skin.
Well, that's why the state is there to protect you.
Do you think that practically, Honorable Mapenduzi, practically speaking, legislation like this, legislating responsibility, legislating decency, legislating what we must do, can really control this? Or what kind of regulation, because that's another question we are discussing, what kind of regulation must we have in this era of ICT, which looks, you know, borderless, they are limitless and very hard to control?
Well, Lady Charles, let me start by commending the Honorable Nsereko for exercising his mandate as a member of parliament. Of course, he's one of the MPs who are very active. And so when it comes with a private member bill, we have to commend, we have to encourage members of parliament to do the things that took them to parliament. And in doing so, we have to be a lot more objective. Otherwise, we end up killing the morale of our parliament, because it will remain the duty of the parliament to make legislations that serve the interests of the citizens. And so there could be people who have contrary views, but in doing so we need to be very objective. We need to at the end of the day know that when I speak as Mapenduzi, I don't speak for Uganda. I cannot give the exact views of every Ugandan. There are a few things that need to be put right, and there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of distortion that have to be put right. And Dr. Sarah made very striking statements, and I want to turn them into questions. And the first question is, does this law stop people from using the internet? No, it doesn't stop people from using the internet. And I don't understand why somebody would say, it infringes on the right to use internet. It has nothing to do with accessing the internet. Number two, does it stop digitalization? No, it doesn't. There is no part of this law that stops the processes of, and the world will continue changing. And actually, as a country, probably we will even have to do a lot more as time changes, because every time, I'm sure nobody expected what we are experiencing today 20 years ago. And we are not sure what is likely to happen maybe another 20 years from now. And so every time people in position of responsibility have to make sure the society is protected from new things that may tear. Of course, in doing so, we have to be sensitive and not again destroy the opportunities and the freedom that has to be. But we need to, from time to time, be conscious and know that the changes are good, but we need to regulate ourselves. The other question that I'll put is that, does it stop people from expressing their opinion? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I have heard many people saying, this law is, and there are people who have not read. And because they hear from others who have probably not even read properly, then out there, how it is, and makes Parliament appear to be a body that is maybe insensitive. And I think we need to be fair to Parliament. Just as the Honorable Minister put it, this law went through processes. If there are areas that are not good for this country as members of parliament, we should be able to soberly talk about it, and we will still take the same processes to amend the same law. So that is what happens. And then the other question, does it affect the welfare and the development of the citizens of this country? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And the other question, the last one I'll put, does it stop the use of computer? It does not. Now, the question of regulation that you put, you see, the Honorable Minister gave an example. Last year, I raised an issue on the floor of Parliament when, and you know, today is very, very interesting. Someone wakes up in the morning, he or she is either stressed or worried about, tomorrow, picks a phone, begins to record his or her voice, and then sends, and it goes viral. So, I raised a matter when a lady turned herself into a doctor, started telling the Acholi people that the vaccine being used is actually targeting the Acholi people.
This is the COVID vaccine?
The COVID vaccine. And you cannot imagine the number of calls and the amount of pressure the members of parliament faced that time. Because everyone got concerned. All of us were concerned and said, look, what is it? And so I had to raise this on the floor of parliament for the Ministry of Health to come out and make clarification, to come out and build the confidence. Because by that time, vaccination in Gulu and the region, remained at about 15 to 20%, when the rest of the country had gone far beyond. These are things that, so you find someone who does not have correct information, but because he or she thinks whatever he or she knows they record and send. And then we have also seen where people use, I have seen statements that are unfortunate, especially statements that divide the country. And so it's purely about regulating. Now the question is it wrong to regulate and let people use it responsibly? My answer is no. People have to be responsible enough. And so for me, I see the kind of reaction. I think it's being blown out of proportion. I think we need to be sober. And if there are areas that really need to be talked about, we should be open to talk about them. But I don't think people should, like the statement you made, Madam Sarah, that this parliament and well, it doesn't kill my morale, but I think probably you did
I
not.
will substantiate.
Yeah, you will have to. You will have to. But it's important to be fair. It's important to be objective, because I think all of us have to be responsible. And so if somebody is annoyed with this law, I'm sure he or she has not read or has not understood properly. That's what I'll put it.
Okay. Mark or Joel Berohanga, you probably have followed this, but you are in the other world of ICT, probably the more active part of it. And we have talked, Sarah referred to ICT now being made a human rights issue, and we are talking about the digital era, that ICT being used for all sorts of things, especially with the coming of COVID. It showed us that organizations can actually be run online and all this. In your reading from a technical point of view, does this law offend some of the fundamental, niceties or characteristics of ICT growth, ICT development? Do they, in the actual sense, or if they don't, what type of regulation do you think the country needs to have, you know, responsible use of ICT and its systems?
Well, thank you. Good evening once again, viewers. Thank you, Mr. Odongtho. One, I must say Ugandans are lucky. Ugandans, you are very lucky. Reason is, ICT has developed from a certain point in this country to where it is now. Let me go to the history. Because this law we are talking about right now, which some of my colleagues who are a bit elitist are really angling it to. The history of internet. Internet first was introduced in 1983. During 1983, Uganda was in a war. We were not developing the backbone infrastructure. We were not developing any program on ICT. But before that, in 1969, that's when the first message on ARPANET was sent. There was no regulation. What if that message was saying, please don't go to Uganda. Uganda has a war. So, right from independence up to now, we've had a scenario where the ICT sector has been developed in Uganda. And this has been done by government. Government which has leaders. The UBC government, the Amin government, of course, the ruling National Resistance Movement government. But I can assure you, the other governments, UBC and the other governments did not do anything because they were struggling to get independence. When the NRM government came into power, we had a scenario of fighting for good governance and making sure there is rule of law. So when we start discussing the Computer Misuse Act, we should thank God that there is a rule of law. So from that background, I want to discuss from the angle of development, because I may not be a lawyer, but I know the president's focus is on development. One of the 4 thematic areas where he mentions development of a country, he mentions ICT. And that is his strategic direction. Strategic direction. It is up to the rest of us, the ministry, departments, and agencies, to implement his strategic objective. So by him assenting to this law, it means, 1, he has accepted rule of law. 2, he has accepted that the future requires regulation of the sector. Then we have the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union. It is covering how data and ICT sector is managed in the European Union. Then why don't we learn from them? If we are going towards East African integration, we shall reach a point where we shall need to regulate the ICT sector. So, regulation is a must for the future. I thank our Honorable Minister here for clearly putting it to you that regulation through Parliament, through the assenting of this act, is something that is very vital in promotion of the sector. Well, let me be specific. Job creation. We are looking at a situation where, let me refer to US. In US, the president's office is facilitating 4,290 investments in terms of the ICT sector. In other words, wealth creation. We have been talking about the law, but the truth is, the president's message is he wants ICT to put money in wananchi's pockets. He wants money in people's pockets. So, our sister here, Virete, was mentioning enabler. But I want to differ from that. The reason is ICT is supposed to be a value creator, not an enabler. Let us look at that point. And I'm glad His Excellency the President is clear on that point. And he has been able to appoint potential ministers and technical people in the cabinet and MDS to do this work. The only challenge is that they have little money. And we need to advocate for more money. Because right now this budget was 124 billion shillings.
That's to the ministry?
To the ministry.
Or to the sector?
The sector of ICT. If you were to break it down, the ministry got 48.5 billion. NITA got 26 billion. You have UCC getting 168 billion. And
UCC what?
UCC got 168 billion.
But then that is bigger than, now when you say that alone is bigger than the 120 billion that you're saying has been given to the sector, isn't it?
Budgetary.
Okay, maybe I will, the minister will help clarify on that.
Let me elaborate something here.
Yeah.
UCC captures what is projected to be collected through fees and so forth.
Oh, yes.
Which may not even be attained.
Let me elaborate something here. How do we create synergies that connect, or how do we create synergies that make sure that the young people, the Bazukuru, are really involved in the ICT sector for value creation, not enabling. Value creation, not enabling, really. Because we shouldn't look at ICT as an enabler. Alibaba, Amazon, and so on are making really so much money.
And that's innovation.
Innovation and research and development. So we need more money in the sector. Me, that's my view. But however, the ICT ministry, through our minister here, has been able to implement and provide for certain programs. The National Innovation Backbone Infrastructure, the NISSP, which are really programs that will enable a country to move forward. The backbone, the BPO. The BPO is only supporting 79 companies. And really, the outsourcing, the BPO outsourcing employs 323 youth. Compared to the powerful five, those are the ones on the UN Security Council. The UN Security Council countries, I'll give you the figures. We have US simply has $58.4 billion. We have UK is spending 143 pounds.
That's on what?
That's on the ICT sector. So in other words, my case is
that's the investment in the ICT sector.
The investment should be deliberate. And that can only be done by us focusing on putting money in young people's pockets. And deliberate investment in companies, deliberate investment in research and development, and the president has already understood this. And all this needs regulation. So the Computer Misuse Act is a stroke of luck.
Okay, Honorable, I don't want us to miss on some of these points that Mark raises. I think a number of them need further expounding and but also pushing into the other areas, like, I mean, digitizing the government processes and even the area of BPO that Mark refers to. Are we, as a government, are we investing enough in ensuring that some of these areas are well funded? You know, like the areas of BPO, the area of digitization, areas of there is also one of the questions that the young people, I must not forget, are talking about, reducing the cost of internet. Are we not moving too slow on some of these areas? And the criticism also on the other side is we are focusing on the wrong things, that the things like, you know, amending the Computer Misuse Act and vis-a-vis putting money in those areas that I've referred to, that this amendment is not the priority. What do you say about that? Where should the young people's interests really be, where government should invest as far as ICT is concerned?
Well, there is a whole broad area of digitization and digital programming, and our ministry is in charge of ensuring digital transformation in this country, and there are very many interventions and activities that are going on. And indeed, over the years, the ICT area has grown. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't put a regulatory framework. And there are many laws which we have enacted to address this area of technology. Even the Communications Act, even the Data Protection and the Privacy Act, as well as the Computer Misuse Act, and many other laws have been put in place. Like my neighbor here is saying, the ICT sector is a growing sector all over, and we have to move fast. Yes, true, the allocation of resources still remains maybe low, the resources are inadequate, but there's a lot which is going on. For instance, we've, as a landlocked country, you know, we access most of the internet from the national fiber, the national backbone infrastructure, and we hook this internet from the under cable sea, which we get from Mauritius through the Indian Ocean, through Kenya to Uganda, and we've been expanding this national backbone infrastructure where we have covered over 50% of the country. We have intentions and arrangements to expand and reach all communities, all corners of the country, and do last mile connections to institutions and so forth. So a lot of work is going on. But we are also discussing with satellite companies to supplement the fiber with satellite technology to get internet covering everywhere. I can also say that the cost of internet supplied by government has been substantially coming down. Just the other day, at the end of August, I did announce when we were in Uguru that we had cut the cost of internet from $70 per megabyte per second to half, 35. And the government being the main provider of the national backbone, even the private providers are hooked on this. So even internet provided by the private sector also consequently comes down.
This is cutting it by 100%.
Yes,
plus,
absolutely.
From 70 to 35.
Because what we realized during lockdown is that we appreciated now the need for access to internet, the need for connectivity, the need to have broadband everywhere in the country. When we sent away learners to their homes, now people realize they must continue learning. When we said people cannot move, we closed the airports. Now people wanted to communicate, to order online, and so forth and so forth. So now the positive side of COVID-19 was that there is a better appreciation for internet and extending access to internet, affordable internet in the countryside and everywhere. So there are many things which we are doing, like BPOs. BPOs, basically, we are talking of using IT to create jobs, especially for the young people. And we are creating an ecosystem within the country that makes it conducive and favorable for young people to get jobs, both within the country, but also even outside Uganda. The other day we had a meeting in Romania, and we signed a big deal with a European Union-based company, which is going to partner with our ministry to get jobs for our graduates to work outside. Because using the BPO strategy, you, Charles, you can be here and get employed by a Canadian firm or a European company there. And you do the work when you are physically in Uganda and you get paid. I have come across youth, I came in Kenya, who referee these European football matches when they are physically in Kenya, and they are part of the referee team, and they are paid when they are physical. So we are now exploring all these opportunities, how we can create employment, particularly for our young people, to do work for companies and organizations outside Uganda, even when physically they are here in Uganda. So I agree with him that the ICT sector needs to be better funded, and there is a technology revolution which is moving so fast. For us as a ministry, what we are aiming at is see that Uganda does not lag behind, because we speak of the fourth industrial revolution today, meaning we have gone through 3 revolutions, the first, the second, the third, we are now in the fourth. But the experience Africa has had is that it is always behind in these revolutions. But we want to move fast by investing more in ICT, by putting more resources, so that we move with the rest of the world. When you look at these cutting-edge technologies which are on board, artificial intelligence, things like robotics, blockchain, and other cryptographic technologies, the Internet of Things, big data, nanotechnology, cloud computing, or gene editing, all these are technologies which are now moving the world. For instance, the reason why it was much easier for scientists to work out a vaccine for COVID, because people said, how come this COVID vaccine has been developed much faster than the vaccines in the past? It was because of technology. When the Chinese experts discovered this was a COVID-19, they now sent the genetic material digitally and shared it across the whole world. And because of supercomputing techniques, the scientists were able to develop a vaccine much faster. So the technology is now what is driving the world. So now our work now as a ministry is still that we digitize, we move with the rest of the country. We are now struggling, for instance, to introduce the 5G.
With the rest of the country or the rest of the world?
With the rest of the world.
Okay.
Like now we are striving as a country to introduce now 5G network. But the other day I was in Spain, they were introducing 6G. But you find some of the technologies, if I check your phone, you might be on a 2G network. So we need to move fast.
At least I'm on 3.
But as technology evolves and develops, we must regulate all these. So you cannot say that technology to grow and move fast without putting a regulatory framework. Because, so coming back to the Computer Misuse Act, the question is Ugandans should ask, that is there abuse of computer use today, the way we communicate on social media platforms? Yes. So the answer is yes.
Across the world?
Across the world, yes.
Yes.
Should we regulate use of these computers or phones so that there is responsible use? What is your answer?
Regulation is a must.
Yes,
the
yes.
The issue is yes. Regulate so what and how. The
communicating using the computers. Should we regulate that use of the computer
That is a
To
yes.
address that misuse, the answer is yes.
That is a yes.
This regulation being done elsewhere in the world? The answer is yes. In other words, what Uganda is doing is not out of the norm, is what other countries are doing. Let technology develop, let's move fast with these technologies, but let us regulate the use of technology, like we regulate the other things. Are there other things which are regulated in our day-to-day life? Definitely yes. So I don't know why people are fearing this regulation, but it is okay for people to debate. It is okay for those who are not satisfied with what Parliament passed to go to court. That again speaks the rule of law. If court, for instance, says Parliament, you were wrong, we shall say, okay, thank you. Either let's do another law. So I don't think anybody should be worried. In other words, in the case, there are checks and balances.
Okay.
If Parliament is wrong, court is there to say, you erred here. If Parliament is right, court will say, you were right. So
good points there. Good points there. Sarah is itching to respond. I wanted actually to bring back the discussion to Sarah and the two gentlemen as well. First, with Sarah to follow up on, given what your colleagues have laid down, I know the question of regulation and what to regulate, especially for lawyers, is one of those areas, and policymakers as well, you gentlemen, is one of those areas which is very broad and the debate cannot end. But the main animal in the room, as opposed to what we get, the debate we get in Uganda here, is what must we regulate? Must we regulate freedom to talk, freedom to express opinions and views, and which extend, by the way, globally, like you said, Honorable Minister, those freedoms include the freedom to abuse someone, and it is up to the person to say, why are you abusing me? Let's go to court, or something like that, and which is where I wanted to bring
but what will the court base on? To make a ruling.
Which is what, because the law is there, I am very sure. I don't know, Sarah was itching to respond.
Yes, Charles, I have been put on the hot seat by my fellow panelists.
And you're fully protected.
Yes, and I want to just pick out three things. Three clauses in the law.
As examples.
Yes. One is part of the amendment of Section 12, which says a person who, without authorization, shall not record a voice or video of another person.
Without authorization.
Social media of recent has been helping a lot in fighting crime. On the Northern Bypass, people who have been attacked in their homes, home break-ins, the WhatsApp groups, estate WhatsApp groups. Social media is a form of security. People who, you see somebody being beaten, you put on Facebook, children who are battered, you put on Facebook, and people have been helped. People battering children have been arrested countrywide. People beating their mothers have been arrested with the aid of Facebook. So this is a person.
Also people who are driving on wrong sides of the,
lane,
breaking traffic rules. There are lawbreakers being pictured, being photographed.
Imagine a woman is being battered, and maybe you, as one person, you know you cannot help counter the abuser. You want to take a video and maybe send police for help. This law says you seek a permission.
You should seek a permission from
the woman
abuser.
Being battered.
From the abuser or the woman being battered.
Yes, because you're going to record two people. You need both their consent. You go to the other clause.
Are you reading from the bill or what we passed? Because some of those actually we amended and improved them.
There was an amendment that without justification, without a useful purpose.
Okay.
But I'm coming, I'm coming to that. That's how they improved on this provision.
But I would love to hear.
No, you will come back. I'm reading another.
We are not talking about the bill, we are talking about the law.
I'm reading the act.
Yes.
So there is another provision on misleading information. A person shall not write, send or share no unsolicited information with another person. WhatsApp groups. You see an article and you think it's related to the work I do or my interests. You need my permission to send it to me. Then, of course, publication of false news, which was already resolved by Supreme Court. So you have these provisions.
I'm going to give you time.
You want to go for a break?
Yes,
okay,
I want
fine,
to go for
no
a
problem.
break. You know, the economy is doing badly.
You
so
need
I want us to
advertisers.
first make some payments and to improve on the economy, the economy for UBC as well as for the nation. So let's go for a break right now, and a commercial break, and we will come back, and then I give Sarah some more time to explain the specific clauses. As they say, the devil is in the detail. We will be looking at those clauses as well. Let's go for the break right now.
MTN joins the people of Keralur to celebrate the 12th coronation anniversary of the King of Keralur, His Royal Majesty Ubim Philip Rauni III in October. At MTN, we believe that we only succeed if the communities in which we operate succeed. And so, we're happy to join the people and well-wishers of the people of Keralur in promoting social cultural programs of the Ubim.
Walego Mugisa ni Ubimu ku Keralur.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800-100-066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
That's right. The Voice is coming to a city near you. From the 21st of October to the 10th of November, you get a chance to showcase your talent. Prepare a 1-minute MP4 video of yourself singing and upload it to thevoice.africa to register. Make sure you have a valid Airtel number, and if you're shortlisted, you will be contacted to come in for the live auditions.
Well, don't just stand there, let's go!
Music your passion, Africa your stage. The Voice Africa, connected by Airtel.
Do you need data collection services, data analysis and reporting, monitoring and evaluation systems? Then contact Mold Technologies, a professional research firm that has provided many organizations with timely research solutions for over 15 years. For more information, visit www.mt.co.ug or call us on 0704 913 399 or 0782 602 963. Visit our office in Kampala at Sayuni Complex in Tinda. Mold Technologies, your professional research firm.
Did you know that a cashless, secure, and convenient lifestyle is possible with Airtel Money Pay? Pay for your goods and services in the following simple steps. Dial *185*9#. Enter the merchant ID. Enter the amount. Enter payment reference, for example, school items. Please enter PIN to confirm. you will receive a confirmation message for a successful transaction. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Behind the Headlines program on UBC here on Nile Avenue, and today we are looking at the ICT sector. We are taking a look at the recently passed Computer Misuse Amendment Act, and we are asking ourselves, is it a drawback to ICT development in the ICT sector? What should we be regulating? What are the areas that are we following the right path to digitization as a country? We are looking at the potential for business process outsourcing as well. And in the studio, we have the Honorable Chris Baryomunsi, who is Minister in charge of the ICT sector. We have Presidential Advisor on ICT, Mark Joel Baruhanga. We have the Honorable Ojara Martin Mapenduzi, Member of Parliament for Bardegela Ibi. And we have Dr. Sarah Birete, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance. And the discussion is about the ICT and its sector and the potential that this has for the growth of this country. Before we went into the break, Sarah, you had raised a number of issues as far as ICT is concerned, and you were talking about the details of some of the clauses that are included in the law and asking whether those are relevant. Please
yes,
go for
them. Charles, just as an example of some of the contentious provisions in the Computer Misuse Amendment Act of 2022, one is the clause that you shouldn't take somebody's video or audio unless without their authorization. And what Parliament put in as a form of improvement was that it should be for rightful purpose. So who determines that rightful purpose? And when is that rightful purpose determined? Because in illegal drafting, ambiguity tends to abuse and does not help improve society. The other provision is on unsolicited information. Unless the person has asked for information, don't share, and the exception is commercial adverts. Commercial, the advertisers have free to send unsolicited information. But Parliament forgets that society is connected socially. The information I might want to share might be for social value, but not for economic value. So the improvement was an exception for advertisers. You go to the issue of misleading information, and as I had said, that one was resolved by the Supreme Court in Andrew Mwenda and Onyango versus Attorney General, so it cannot be debated in Uganda unless we create another court beyond the Supreme Court to determine that issue. That one is concluded by courts. So my point is that Ugandans are not against regulation of internet. And for the benefit of viewers, we have many laws regulating internet, including the Computer Misuse Act that was enacted in 2011, and it has clauses like Section 24 on offensive, Section 25 on offensive communication, which solves whatever the bill alleges in its object to address. And then you have cyber harassment in Section 24, which also addresses many issues that Parliament is saying they are addressing in this new act. When you go to laws like the Data Protection and the Data Privacy and Protection Act of 2019, we have other laws, including the regulation of interception of communication, among others. They already take care, including defamation clauses in the penal code. They already take care of any abuses, infringement, communication, or whatever it is that happens on the internet. In addition, we have the UCC regulations and act. UCC is largely in charge of communication, including social media. So it's not a question that people do not want regulation. So the issues that we are raising are issues that go beyond the acceptable and justifiable limitations to enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms.
Which is an article in the Constitution. I think that must be 43, right?
Yes.
Which is really a standard for making a law.
Yes, but before I conclude, Charles, there are other crimes that happen. If you go to definition of computer misuse includes such acts as hacking, as creating viruses, unauthorized access of data, also people's software creations or breaking passwords. But these laws do not offer that protection. Yes, every country has a computer misuse act, but what misuse are they addressing? They do not address a misuse that is aimed at curtailing freedoms. There is computer misuse that we should address and regulate.
Okay, Honorable Mapinduzi, as an MP and someone who agreed with this the Nsereko law, someone is asking here, someone called Walker from Alebtong, he says, this is a great discussion. My question is, how will this law be applied to prosecute foreigners or Ugandans in exile, people living outside Uganda, from insulting or spreading false information about Uganda government and individuals in Uganda? Then another person is asking that, how will politicians share their political messages, calling people for
during campaigns?
During campaigns,
Let's wait for them.
Without consulting us as
asking
receivers
for permission.
of, will they ask for permission each time they want to share their campaign messages online or wherever without without going through us, something like that? That's what another person from Kiruhura is asking. And then another one here, also from Kiruhura, Sir John Igumira Rwamasindi says, the ICT sector is one of Uganda's fastest growing, unlike manufacturing and agriculture. It records double-digit growth it has recorded over the last few years, largely driven by the telecommunications sector, and thus contributing much to our economy. So it is an important, I think he's making a statement, just making a comment. We need to take time to get out of this economic crisis using the sector, and we shouldn't be introducing, he says, we shouldn't be introducing repressive and brutal laws to the sector. Otherwise, we are taking the sector back. Honorable Mapinduzi, you can start from there.
Well, Charles, three things. One, you can choose what to read and ignore what you do not want to read. Number two, you can also choose what to understand. There are people who will deliberately refuse to understand certain things. And also you can choose to interpret things the way you want. And there are quite a number of people who are doing it that way. But one thing I have to make clear is that this law, the processes were not taken in bad faith. And I want to believe, because I'm part of this parliament, I want to believe that this parliament has every good intention to serve the interests of Ugandans.
Parliament has 559 MPs? including the ex-official?
555.
And 55?
Yes, exactly.
Do you trust all the 554 minus you?
Well, I do. Let me just...
All of them?
No. Because you see, when I say parliament...
All their intention, okay.
When I say parliament, I do not mean the individual members of parliament.
Oh, okay.
Each member of parliament can come with whatever ideas they have got.
And that's what my private member's bill is about.
Exactly.
The person brings it based on their viewpoint, and what the Saras are saying is that someone woke up and thought that because they had been abused one day by an opponent or opponent's supporters, they must pay them back with a private member's bill.
Actually, that is
and that then the entire house decided to jump on it because they all, perhaps one time or the other, faced similar victimization, and therefore a law.
You see, that's exactly what I'm trying to put clear. You know, a member can come with a private member, member's bill. But there are processes that have to be undertaken, so that irrespective of your intention, the final result has to be something that is in the interest of Ugandans. And so I am not looking at Honorable Nsereko. I am looking at the law as passed by Parliament. And there are people who are talking about the raw part. They are talking about the bill. Of course, when the Honorable Nsereko came with the private member bill, there were a number of things that were, I would say, crude. And many of us came up very strongly to say, look, we think this and these parts are not okay. They're not fair. They're not right for the citizens of Uganda. And those parts were dropped. Unfortunately, there are people who have stopped at reading the bill and they have not read the final law. There are a number of things that Parliament deliberately took the processes to fine-tune and make sure it doesn't contradict any other provision of the laws, but also it doesn't affect negatively Ugandans. Of course, when you look at the implications of, the misuse, if you decide to go against the law as it is now, you act contrary, there are severe implications. Now, there are people who look at the implications and they say, but this is too much. Before saying this is too much, why do you even go to break the law? That should be. And for me, this is not about any political party. It's not about an individual. It's about making sure that we regulate ourselves as a country so that every citizen is protected. Because on the one hand, somebody is saying, we are violating the rights of citizens. What about you, Mr. Odongtho, Charles Odongtho, who is being abused, is being dehumanized, is being unfairly? Should the law not protect you? That is the question. What about somebody who is targeting a particular group of people and trying to dehumanize them and trying to push them out of... This is a country with over 56 different tribal groups. Every citizen need to find where to fit in. And so we shouldn't just look at individuals and all that. Of course, we should mix where the country has not yet done much. There are things that this country needs to do in making sure that we reach where the Honorable Minister is talking about. The question of funding. This is something that, we are passionate about as members of Parliament. Because the world has gone digital. Look at what happened during COVID. Children were doing online learning, but there are places where children were not able to access the internet. And so are we being fair to those who are in remote areas where we cannot access internet? Where do we place them? This is something. So even the COVID period has given us lessons that we have to learn, and as a country we need to be very aggressive in making sure that we fit into that competitive environment. The Honorable Minister talked about what is going on in Kenya. Kenya is making a lot of strides in making sure that the country embraces digitalization. They're putting a lot of, and I think as a country we need to learn a lot from that. We are not doing much. And also, I belong to so many WhatsApp groups. I think also as citizens, we need to, you know, we need to think deep, and looks like majority of us are only using about 30% of what the internet is capable of.
Maybe even less.
Or even less.
30% we would be far.
Precisely, or even less, because when you follow some of the discussion on WhatsApp, you know, every time there are groups I have decided to get out of, because you really, from morning to evening, people are quarreling, they're abusing themselves, and the internet can provide much more. You can actually learn how to manage a plan from getting the seed planting up to harvesting through the internet. You can do so much through the internet. So we need to do much more. And the question of innovation, where my brother Biranga talked about, we haven't done much in terms of being innovative as required, because we can make so much money as a country from innovation. And that is an area where Parliament needs to deliberately. So much as somebody may think Parliament is coming up with laws that is trying to curtail, on the contrary, Parliament is very committed to supporting the processes, or, you know, the processes of digitalizing this country. So I really want to, and also my sister Sarah, you don't need to selectively read. And
I was giving examples of offensive.
Actually, when you read section 12, you deliberately decided to leave a part that clarified, that answered your own, because when
you can read it.
Which part did you
just read it?
You know, Dr. Sarah was given an example where you are prohibited from recording somebody
for rightful purpose.
But it goes ahead to say, on condition that the recording is for rightful purpose.
Who determines rightful purpose?
What is right in this country? What is right in this country is what is legal. So if a mother is being assaulted, that is criminal. And so if you record it, the intention is right, to provide justice to that. That is the interpretation. That is why I said you can choose how to interpret. So that is what I would term as rightful purpose.
You see, I hope this is an interactive session.
Yeah, it is.
No, I want to make sure, of course, that I have the authority of the moderator.
Go ahead.
When you go under Article 20 and 22 on the right to privacy and the other fundamental rights and freedoms, you can take my video thinking you are doing a right thing. Tomorrow I will take you to court using my right to privacy and say you violated it. What will you say? Who determines the right purpose?
Well,
and where do you draw a line between a right purpose and people's privacy?
The judicial officer will determine.
That means you want every Ugandan to be drawn to court every day?
No, but using the example you gave, Dr. Sarah, you said if a mother is being assaulted.
Yes, or a child.
Is assaulting a mother or a child something acceptable by law? No, it is not. And so if you took a picture and shared with people who can help in providing justice, is that wrong? That is what Parliament is talking about.
Even
that is the rightful purpose.
Just a minute. There has been studies, and we understand these things differently. There has been studies. 56% of women, unfortunately, they thought that being beaten is a gift of love. So you can take a video thinking a wife is being battered. Tomorrow, this woman will sort out their issues with the person who was violating them, and this happens on a daily basis. Even the victim alone might be the one to drag you to court, saying, you know, we were not fighting. So what will you say?
So what argument are you making? You know?
I'm saying that when you make a vague law or an ambiguous law, it creates more problems than what you intend to solve. So that is ambiguous.
I think I do not want to
in the angle of human rights or in the angle of future technology.
I do not want to be quick and I'm not judgmental, but I think Dr. Sarah, you need to read more and try to understand this law objectively, without attaching a lot of emotion, because at the end of the day, there are people like you who should be protected. every citizen needs to be protected.
And we have enough laws.
Well, we have enough laws, and we should not disregard this particular law. Why do we think this law is not important and the others are important? I think we are not being fair to ourselves.
Okay, good enough. We need to move the debate to other areas of the ICT, the ICT human. Can I call it the ICT body? With a lot of limbs, a lot of other parts, and some of those parts include the areas of internet penetration. Some of them Honorable talked about. My personal look, I was reading the potential for ICT, and one of the things that now is used as an example, and I needed Mark to start us on that part. One of the things that, one of the parts of the world that is looked at as, I think, the Philippines, which is referred to as the Philippines is referred to as the BPO capital of the world, you know, and with a lot of potential, a lot of revenue that they turn in for their country because of the magnitude of young people getting engaged with ICT. Sarah talked about innovation, and that we are not yet exploring and exploiting well enough. I want to pick your mind, Mark. You are the president's man, and as a presidential advisor, what are the areas that you are emphasizing most for young people to take advantage of? I'm made to know by my production team that there are a lot of messages that are coming through, rightfully so, because we are discussing ICT. So yes. I think everybody is now on their gadget, tweeting
I
and
hope
sending.
they are not committing offenses.
They must, if they commit an offense when the minister is here, they have already placed some here. Let's start. Okay, I accept this interruption. Gentlemen and lady, let's start from what Sam in Kampala is saying, that to the Minister of ICT, when are Ugandans getting Facebook back? Why do we have Amazon Kindle network in Uganda for us to, why don't we in Uganda for us to benefit from free e-books, just as our neighbors Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania are enjoying? Or Amazon Kindle is really a fun to have and read from. That's the Honorable Minister, I guess you have picked that.
Yes.
To respond to. And then Anthony from Ginger says, I like what the Minister for ICT said. Let's have some decency and responsibility while using internet. Thank you, Anthony. Then Samuel Asimwe from all the way from Kasese says, I feel Ugandans have a tendency to rejecting everything minus understanding the good of any idea. Thus, my request would be considering a possibility of hacking, as someone may use your account to throw you in line of fire, and also opening up an account in your name. Samuel, your message is so long, I'm not sure whether I've understood you. Muzamiru Biokufa Katebwa from Bunyangabu district says, the people complaining about this act are those who have majorly been using internet and social media in general to attack and incite people. There is any clause in the new law stopping people from accessing social media. It is only calling for responsible usage. That's Muzamiru from Bunyangabu district. Thank you, Muzamiru. Salim, listening from Kalungu, says, to me, I think this is a good move to regulate the use of ICT because it has been over-abused. Thank you very much, Salim. James from Liantonde says, first of all, I'm happy seeing a presidential advisor who is of a young age. This shows that Uganda has a bright future. The Computer Misuse Act is 100% okay, though I'm not sure of the penalties.
Thank you.
An act has to have the penalties that you have to look at as well. There was one from Aleptong. I think that one sent both to the official line and also to my personal line. So I think that one is the one from Walker of Aleptong. That one I had already read it. So I will come to Honorable Minister to respond to those questions. But Mark, you know, some of the potential for ICT, what are we supposed to be telling the young people? Where can they put their money? Where can they put their mouth? And what is government doing in order to expand the potential?
The young people, you mean the Bazukulu?
I don't know the definition of young people.
You have to explain that.
I equally do not
What is
understand
the meaning of that?
I don't know the definition of young people in our local language.
Sarah here is a Muslim.
Because
what is
Sarah here is a Muslim.
What's the meaning of that? This is an English program.
Even you're a Muslim.
Young people.
That's an English. This is an English program.
Okay. For me, young people means the young people of
In
Uganda.
Uganda, yes.
Now, I am not sure what Bazukulu mean in your context.
It is a grandchild.
A grandchild.
A grandchild.
But it is not only grandchildren who should benefit from ICT. Even us, the children, have to benefit. So you are discriminating against us. ICT is not for discrimination.
No, we don't want to discriminate, but we want to.
You are DPC.
No, actually, I was born within the era of computers. I use computers and these ICT systems better than some of these Bazukulu Mark.
Well, I want to say, ICT development in Uganda should be considered a revolution. One, because we are moving from it being an enabler to it being a value creator. We have examples. During COVID, those who are owning restaurants were supplying food through advertising on their gadgets and online accounts. Those who are owning businesses, I met some young ladies of Itoto. They deal in cosmetics. They are really doing well because they are really online and they are marketing their products. They move only to deliver, but all the orders and payments are made online. In other words, e-commerce. Government and the president is encouraging value creation and input of wealth creation. You've heard of a term called Musevenomics. It is usually used by General Saleh in making sure people understand wealth creation. Even ICT, through deliberate government initiatives, which the president has strategically mentioned and given us good ministers. By the way, the ministers we've had Engineer Nasasira, we have Dr. Rugunda, we've had the current minister here, and
you had also
Frank Tumwebaze.
You had
Frank
Tumwebaze, you had Namakova, you had the late Agra
Awori, yes.
Dr. Mulira was the first.
Dr. Mulira was actually the first.
You know, these people have really.
And you a colleague of a colleague with of Dr. Mulira? Is he not a presidential advisor as well?
That is true. He's a presidential advisor, and really, these are people who have been competent, though the president's liking for medical doctors in the ministry is very good, but also that is the science area. It's strategic. Once you understand the ideology, of how ICT is supposed to transform the sector. It doesn't matter what law is there. Because, for instance, the current weapons being used, or the defense sector, they are using technology. They are using ICT. They are using ICT. But how do you say supplementary budget for the Ministry of Defense and you want them to buy outdated equipment which are cannot defend the territorial integrity of a state? So the relevance is what we really need to focus on.
Is
the
young
relevance?
People,
by relevance,
I thought that the relevance we don't dispute. What we are looking at is what are the potential that the young people can see that they can just jump on and grab immediately and run away with and turn around their lives. I don't think we dispute the relevance. We don't, Mark, do we?
I meant the relevance of this discussion. We should use this platform to inform the young people.
I thought you meant the relevance
Sarah
of
here
ICT.
is telling them the law. I don't know the law.
I started on advantages of ICT. Mr. Biarhanga, to be fair, I started on broad advantages of ICT.
Yes, but
including innovation. But two
you
questions.
have not. You're a young person.
Two questions for you.
Muzukuru.
Don't force him into an edge you might not be sure about. Two questions for you.
Senior Muzukuru.
Two questions for you. Free expression of opinion and creativity facilitates innovation. So when you curtail people's ability to freely express themselves,
that is from the angle. Okay.
Let me give a question to you. There are two. So when you curtail people's ability to freely think, express, you limit creativity. The problem is that we look at freedom of expression in terms of politics. But it's not just politics. Even when you are developing an idea, it is expression.
But what you are stating are just imaginary. They are not in this.
No, I'm coming. I'm coming. So when you limit, so what we are saying on limitation is that you might even limit the young people's ability to create, to think.
No.
You can dispute that. The second question is, as a presidential advisor, what is your take on a closed Facebook for now more than 2 years and how it is affecting young people's e-commerce? Because Facebook has more usage, which is like 3 times more than Twitter and other social media platforms, and it was more used by young people.
Maybe my brother Charles, before he comes in,
Can you allow him respond to that? Because you want to make
maybe it will help. Maybe it will help.
You want to help the presidential advisor?
Maybe
you want to advise an advisor?
He's not my advisor. So hopefully he will pick something from it. But let me just say this.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you very much. I really...
The advisor get the advice to take to advise the president.
Again, Charles, I want to emphasize that we need to be fair. Because when Madam Sarah says this law limits people from being creative, it's not there in this law. There is no provision. It does not affect the ability for anybody to be creative, to even say it stop people from thinking. It is not in this law.
Have you ever read Article 29 of the Constitution?
No, by the way, this...
Have you ever read?
Look here, we are talking about this Act of Parliament. There is no, what you are saying is imaginary.
Act of Parliament derives from the Constitution.
Dear, either you have your own motive to paint Parliament negative, because that's the statement you said at the start.
I'm talking about the law.
No, yes, because we made this law as Parliament. And I'm telling you, as one of those who took part, and I said there were parts that were not okay, and we fine-tuned. Because we care about Uganda. But for you to say, you know...
those things of saying if you abuse subsections, you don't hold the public office for some years. Some of those will knock them off.
We remove that.
I didn't even mention that, did I?
So I would want you to be fair and say the things that you feel are not good in that law without expressing your imagination. It has nothing to do with creativity. If we are going to fail to be creative, that will be our own weaknesses. but not because of the law, this particular law.
Okay.
I want to hear
the
from
presidential advisor has
on
been
ICT.
assisted. Now respond to the ones which were not, where
I don't think my question has been answered, unless you think so.
Which one?
Saying when you limit expression, you limit creativity.
Well, I'll start with the first question. That is in the angle of
Facebook.
That one was the second.
The one on Facebook.
Yes, but I'll start with the first one. The first one was in the angle of human rights and limitation of expression, etc. What I can say to you, limitation of expression is not affected by a law which is established to regulate for the good. In other words, we are not regulating for specifically human rights or freedom of expression or democracy. We are regulating to ensure that the national policy and national strategy which the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies follow, does what? Performs well. So that the ICT sector can perform well. I do not want to angle myself from on the angle of human rights. No. Why let me ask you, why were people's Facebook accounts who support, by the way, if you are aware, His Excellency the President won the election and the Ugandans voted him overwhelmingly.
He's the president.
But Twitter and Facebook were blocking people's accounts. Why? So, but that is not relevant to the young people of Uganda. The young people want money. That's why I'm going to go to the part of e-commerce. Because when you divert me to, I told you ICT is a revolution. And as the Bazukuru, we are going to fight you people. We are going to fight you people who are human. Hey, you have refused. You refused.
I'm not a Muzukuru. For the record, I am not a Muzukuru.
Refused to be.
But Mr.
E-commerce.
Go to the area of Facebook. The area of Facebook. She asked you about Facebook. One of the which is a facilitator for e-commerce.
Well,
for the young people.
I can answer it.
Oh, the Honorable Minister will.
You see, these platforms, whether Facebook, Twitter, and the others, are at our invitation as people of Uganda, and they must also fit within the legal framework of this country. For instance, we require them not to take a partisan stance when we do our local politics. What happened is that Facebook took a partisan position in our political affairs here by taking anti-NRM sides, by blocking people who support NRM, by saying the NRM message is propaganda, is false. That's what caused that conflict with the government blocking it. And we have no apologies for that. However, the government, mainly through UCC, the Uganda Communications Commission, has been engaging with Facebook. And I can tell the viewers that the engagement is almost maturing. We are agreeing on terms on how we are going to relate. Simply because you are Facebook, you don't come here and do whatever you want. There are countries like China, which have blocked all these channels. So yes, there were positive benefits from having Facebook, but we insist as a government that we are not a lawless government. We don't promote anarchy. Whoever comes to do work here, to play here in Uganda, must play in accordance with the rules and standards set by the government. Because this government is not an anarchic or a lawless government. But also we encourage Ugandans, because we have funds which support innovations, that Facebook was created by a human being. We can create our own Facebook in the courts or similar platforms. And indeed, I can say we have very many enthusiastic, competent young people in Uganda who are coming up with innovations. We have an innovation fund in the Ministry of ICT where people who have either skills or competences or interest and knowledge apply for these funds, and they have been giving us solutions to many of the day-to-day problems that we have. So Facebook, we have negotiated, we are almost coming to the conclusion. Once we have agreed, it may be opened, but nobody should lose sleep simply because, and again, it's a warning to all these platforms. Yes, Twitter may be very popular, but you don't come here and impose things which are against the rules and the laws here. Like I was invited to give a keynote address in Portugal a few weeks ago. I found in Europe there is a satellite company which offered to support Ukraine against Russia in their war. And there was an issue of debate. Why should an IT company be now taking sides in the local politics of countries? So, and everywhere this has to be regulated. So really that's the context of Facebook. But we have agreed on many issues, and I think sooner than later it should be back.
How soon is this soon? What type of discussions are going on that can be shared? Since I know our young people are watching and they're interested in, because I know that I know 2 or 3, young people who complained and to me and said, do you know when Facebook will be opened? We try to, by the way, there are some young people who access it through VPN.
Not all young people, even you guys. Yeah, people are bypassing through VPN.
No, I know so many ministers who do, but I will not mention them.
So what is the use of blocking?
No, it is inconveniencing, but it is also, I think, a little more expensive. Because when you access Facebook through VPN, it is a little more expensive. And it drains even more battery. There are a number of inconveniences that it causes. It's itchy in a way, which is why they keep asking Sarah, and you know that is why they ask that it should be returned. So, Honorable Minister, I wanted to...
So it's, the blocking is just to punish the poor.
Maybe I can ask Honorable Minister.
And in areas where network is slower, it is extremely hard for you to go through VPN. When are you unblocking it? When do you think this discussions will mature? Honorable Minister, you should be knowing.
I know the UCC,
and I'm sure you are the one leading the discussions.
Not directly.
It is under his docket.
It's under me, but the UCC is taking the lead. But
as UCC is delegated, not, but you are the man in charge.
That's why I'm telling you. That's why I said I will answer this one. So and I'm saying they have struck consensus on a number of areas, and the few areas just need to be agreed upon.
You know why I'm asking?
I can't with definitely
release all.
I can't definitively say tomorrow or the other day.
Like a negotiation in peace talks. When peace talks are going on and you don't reveal everything. But you know, this platform, the reason why I'm asking, I need you to use this platform to put certain worries or anxiety to rest and to bring out some hope. Because in any case, you will one day have to, explain to the Ugandans, because you are their public servant, that these are some of the offensive communications that young people don't need to engage in, but these ones are allowable, and but starting now they can start knowing some of those areas that are permissible.
The law is clear. The computer misuse defines those areas: cyberbullying, cyber harassment, and so forth. But the shutdown of Facebook was actually not because of our young people who communicate on it. It was from the behavior of Facebook as an organization. Yes, Facebook as an organization, because in our view, they took a partisan stand in our local politics, which is not acceptable, because we feel a platform like Facebook, Twitter should be neutral, should neither support NRM nor opposition, just be a communication platform. But when you start now saying this political party is telling lies, is doing what, then we shut down the accounts of those who support this party. We feel that is the incorrect behavior on the side of Facebook. So the discussion is around that, and I think we are agreeing on how to operate together going forward. So the assurance I can give is that sooner than later, I think the discussion will be concluded and it can be back. But the point is, all these players, all these partners and stakeholders must play by the rules of the country, because we are not a lawless country.
Okay. I have a question, Honorable Minister. Exactly on regulation. Facebook has known regulations. I saw the communication after the blocking of those accounts. And there were accounts for some other people who were not NRM as well that were blocked. And the communication from Facebook was that the accounts violated the community regulations. You are talking on one hand in support of regulation. On the other hand, when you are regulated and the accounts found offensive and suspended, you say it is wrong. Yet the message from Facebook was saying these accounts violated the community usage rules.
Which community?
Facebook has rules. Facebook conducts itself as a community of people. The users are referred to as community.
In other words, the global
the global
community.
Regulations.
Where is our sovereignty?
So if you are saying you support regulation, you want to curtail recklessness, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they have regulations. And these social media platforms are universal. So when you say, where is my sovereignty, because you wanted NRM accounts to violate the regulations, then why are you speaking in support of regulations?
But you're also contradicting yourself.
In our view as a government, they were taking a partisan stand because we don't believe that their rules were being violated. And we enjoy the right to regulate what is in this country. So are you saying we should kneel before Facebook?
No, I'm saying you are in support of regulation. When you are regulated and found offside, you think it is wrong. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm also saying that all these actors and players and partners must be regulated by the sovereign states, because we are not a lawless country. We don't believe that actually the reason they were giving is correct, that these people whom they were broken accounts were violating their rules. No.
Okay.
They were actually directly critiquing NRM as a party, which we thought is not correct. Neither should they critique NRM, neither should they start critiquing opposition parties, because they have no business with our local politics here in Uganda.
Okay, let's start winding up. Honorable, maybe let's start with Mark, and then I come to Honorable Mapenduzi and Sarah, and then the Honorable Minister. 1 minute each, Mark, as we wind up. Way forward on ICT, in your view, just wrapping it all up. Way forward for the ICT potential, ICT sector in this country.
The future technologies of this country will depend on how the country comprehends the synergies between income generation and technological development. That is one. Two, the ICT revolution needs all stakeholders on board. And already the President has given us a strategic direction. And this direction still rotates around putting money in the young people's pockets. So the young people, please, my request is, my message to you is, prepare yourself, be involved in this revolution of making money through digital inclusion and participation in the ICT sector. Your demand to us as government and to the Minister and Parliament should be infrastructure, low internet costs, and definitely facilitating peace and security for you to engage in meaningful business. Parliament should be able, through the budgetary and ICT committee, should be able to enact laws that are favorable to the ICT sector. Consider this act as an opportunity to improve on it. Where there are inadequacies, they will be corrected. The parliament is available. And luckily enough, we are able to engage them as well. So, I wish you well and thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mapenduzi, your final message.
I'll give you two examples. I one time went to Amuro, a place in Amuro, where people gather every evening. And you may think it's a market, but that is the only spot where they can access network in Amuro.
When did you do this?
Well, I am telling you the truth. I went to, yes, and those watching from Amuro will confirm this. Actually,
I'm laughing because you are reminding me of 99.
Exactly. And then I went to another village.
When MTN was now rolling out across the country, around 2003, 4, I think 2, 3, 4, I was working in Paida with Radio Paida then, and you would look for where there is a spot, and then everybody would go and gather there. Then people line up to, you know, there would be one person with a phone, everybody would go, you pay. This is around the late 99, early 2000. People would pay in an area, and you usually either a tree or on an anthill, and you pay to climb there, then make your call, then you get away. The moment you have gotten down out of the anthill, network disappears.
And to be specific, because somebody may, there are places where you can access, where you have network in Amuro. But this particular place is, there is a market called Teokoro on your way to Nakang. And I found people crowded in one spot. And I said, wow, this is... And then there is another place where there is an anthill, where you find, that's another village, now in Gulo. You find people climbing on top. Is that recent? I am telling you what is true. And that is why I'm saying it now. So what I'm trying to bring is that there is need to, just like the presidential advisor put it, Mr. Biaranga, we need to put resources to improve on the infrastructure, but also we need to care about these young Ugandans who are in remote places. We are talking about technological advancement. We know that especially children in urban, centers, or children in Kampala and elsewhere are able to be taken through, the systems, and they can access this. But what about a child who is in Zombo, who has never seen a computer? How are we going to support it? So we need to look at the country as one and put resources, put investment in all these places, so the growth can be, holistic. We don't be limping on the one end. And as Parliament, we will. I'm happy with the committee. I have attended their meetings a few times, and I see the spirit. I see the. So we will do our part, Honorable Minister, to support you, but we also want to see, like, issues of network, and Honorable Minister, please help us in these areas. Yeah.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'll be very brief. As the Honorable Mapenduzi was talking about the challenges of access to internet, I was thinking, under Article 79, Parliament has a duty to promote constitutional democracy as well as legislate for the peace, order, and development of Uganda. So instead of wasting time on redundant draconian laws, why don't you focus on universal access to internet, which was declared a human right by the UN for Ugandans? And Ugandans would support you in that field, but not in fields trying to curtail opinion, trying to curtail expression, and we shall defend the fundamental rights and freedoms of Ugandans.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, as you wind up, I need you also to touch on areas of the benefit, as we discuss ICT and especially areas of BPO with a huge potential, with the market of potentially 215 projected. That's what the UN global projections are, that BPO has a potential of $215 billion. That's huge. Even if we just got 5 billion out of it, just 5 billion, we would really be ahead. That potential from ICT and then language, our advantage of language. We have, when you're discussing ICT potential and, outsourcing businesses, Uganda is looked at as among the best in the region in terms of our advantage with language. Our English is better listened to than of many other countries across the world. And then there are opportunities, and then even our time zone. As people are going to sleep, people, big tech companies, big country nations, economies, as they are going to sleep, for us, we are awake, and our children are doing nothing. Those potential and advantages for opportunities. Tell us how the young people can take advantage of that. So for you, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, the digital revolution is on and is unstoppable globally. So Uganda has to run fast to catch up with the rest to be part of this revolution. And as we all appreciate, technology is making life easy, and it is the way to go. Now, as a government, like I said earlier on, we are trying to create a digital ecosystem in Uganda that makes it favorable for us to digitize properly. We are working on the infrastructure, the national backbone infrastructure, to extend it to the rest of the world. Like I said, we are discussing with satellite companies to supplement that with the satellite, so that there is a connectivity in all corners of the country. Somebody in Karamoja, somebody in Western Nile, somebody in Kisoro should be able to do a degree online and finish it. Should be able to order. Someone in Kisoro should order for items from China without getting into a plane to go there, and items find you in Kisoro. And we are also trying to explore how we can use ICT as a way of creating jobs, what we are raising, the issue of business process outsourcing, the issue of startups, innovations, all these we are growing them. But mind you, this ecosystem also requires legislation. Even people who want to do business with Uganda in the areas of ICT, do you have a regulatory framework so that you don't abuse these technologies? So Parliament enacting this law is not a sign of redundancy, but is part of what is required. That as technologies evolve, as they grow, we must also regulate all these technologies. So from the government side, we are doing everything possible to make it conducive. The good thing, we have a very vibrant young population, which is technology savvy. People are actually hooked on their phones, on their computers, and we want to tap those energies to use that zealousness, to use technologies positively, not to communicate things which are offensive or insulting. So we are working on that environment. We are bringing down the cost of internet. For instance, the other day I was in Kigali, where we had the Council of Ministers of ICT. I was, by the way, elected the Vice President of the Council of Ministers of ICT in Africa. Oh. And we are
the Vice?
Yes, as the ministers.
We are going to ask after the show, we shall ask what it brings, what it comes with.
Yes, next time I can come back. Now, one of the things we are working on now is to negotiate with technology companies to bring in smart devices through a negotiated arrangement. Because what is limiting the penetration is that the smart devices are expensive. A smartphone, a laptop, an iPad, ordinary people cannot afford them. Now we are working as countries in the region to negotiate with these companies so that the devices come in through that negotiation and they become affordable. So we shall get there. We shall get there. And our appeal that let us embrace technology. We are promoting digital literacy so that people can know how to use these devices. In the government, we are now promoting e-government. We want a paperless government. We want a digitized environment. Just the other day, we tabled a own request in the parliament to digitize the government systems so that things are automated within the government. And there are many innovations which have been done by all Ugandans. For instance, do you know, we now pay through IFMIS, this payment system, which is the digital. We have a procurement system which is now digital. The other day somebody designed the processing of when you want to put up a building and you put the architectural drawings, the plans, approvals. Now it is digital. So we are going digital in all areas. And you can see the passport system with these documents of government. Now when we are applying for a land title, we have a land management information system which is digital. So when you go to most of the government departments, we are now digitizing all the processes. And
the only quarrel we still have is that even when you are digitizing, the costs of the same are increasing.
And there is no centralization of data.
And there is no centralization of data.
I don't think the costs are increasing. Eventually they will come down. Eventually they will come down as we digitize.
You know, so there was one time we did, immediately after you started giving out, is it the reading pads in Parliament?
The iPads,
the following year, the cost of paper instead increased.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Those
Monitor did that
those are your
story.
journalistic opinions. I don't think you did.
Daily Monitor did that story, and
Monitor, I'm not surprised because sometimes they want to make sensational
No, Monitor is under you, but you know they are doing a good job of checking you as well.
Sometimes they are just more sensational than being evidence-based. The public, you criticized us. Why is the Parliament using iPads? But I'm sure now you can't answer that question.
No, me, I didn't.
No, not
except I was shocked that the cost of paper instead increased the next year. But that was some time ago. I need to check again.
Some of the Monitor stories take them with a pinch of salt.
I need to check again.
Especially when they are reported on the Parliament or government.
Okay.
And they just make them sensational. But they should do now another study. Look at Parliament maybe 10 years ago. And now, has the cost of paper and stationery gone up? I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think
we will be.
So the assurance we want to give Ugandans is that the president himself is extremely committed to the issue of ICT, and increasingly more resources will be allocated in the area of ICT. Let us embrace ICT. It is the future. We must support the young people of this country to use the ICT for our socio-economic transformation, and all of us. And
then another thing that
the commitment is there from
next
government.
time I'll come to your office, and we need to ask whether the ICT penetration is going across the country uniformly, not just in the urban areas like Kampala, i.e. are our children accessing computers. So I've been across some places in Nebi where you find a whole government school, a secondary school, and they're competing with schools in Kampala. You find the whole school, a government school, with only one computer. Then the computer is used by is supposed to be used by the administrator. Then the headmaster puts it in their office. Then the others have to come and type things from the office of the headmaster or headmistress.
Managed by UCC.
Without computers, how do you
build the computer labs? Computer labs, there are schools, and equip them with the computers. We may not have reached all the schools, but where we haven't reached, we are coming. We are coming there.
Me, I will tell my head teachers of Nebi to, now that I can reach you, I'm going to tell the head teachers of Nebi to just bombard you with a lot of petitions.
And even the parish development model will be amended to include ICT penetration, especially on equipment and infrastructure.
If you talk about PDM, this MP will not hear you well. Yeah. But I think we need to close.
That's a very valid point of giving IT services in our school system, and we have a program. We may not have reached each and every school, but through UCC and to an extent in ITAU, we are actually equipping schools with computers and laboratories, because the ICT is now being taught in schools, and therefore we must provide the appropriate equipment for the learners to get the skills. Yes.
Thank you very
so
much.
If your head teachers come to our office, I will put a red carpet to welcome them.
I'm going to invite them,
Charles,
but we need to close.
Yeah, we have to, but I just wanted to tell the Honorable Minister one thing. We went as a committee to districts in eastern Uganda. There are schools where government procured computers, but they have no access to electricity. They even don't have generators.
No.
We found the computers rotting.
No, but the program includes solar, where the electricity hasn't reached. We are supposed to provide solar
so
to run those computers.
Maybe your ministry needs to see how to mount pressure on the people who should provide.
That's very good feedback.
Thank you very much. Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Thank you very much, Mark Biarohanga Joseph, Presidential Advisor on ICT.
A young presidential advisor.
A young presidential advisor. All the rest are gray hair.
As one of the person is appreciated that is young.
Reason? You know the reason, unique reason? Because it is ICT. The other ones are old. I think they don't even know ICT. But if you know, and you're a presidential advisor.
But there are many presidential advisors who are young.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Mapenduzi. Dr. Sarah Birete, thanks a lot.
So, I'm here to announce that the MTN Kampala Marathon is back. And this year,